Hello, welcome to my channel. Today we're looking at the disappearance of Keeslyn Noelle Roberts, as well as the murder of Caleb Smith. And we will start at the Charlie Project with Keeslyn Noelle Roberts. It says she's been missing since January 18th, 2020 from Resaca, Georgia. She was born January 20th, 1999. She would be 24 now, so she was 20 years old at the time. She was about 5'1", 5'2", 117 pounds. I didn't see any does in the NamUs that listed that seemed to fit her description. Blonde hair, green or hazel eyes. She has piercings in her ears and a tattoo on the inside of her right forearm of the design of blue waves, green and yellow sea turtles, and a yellow hibiscus flower with the words "Love Yourself First" in script. Photos of the tattoo are posted with the case summary, and there's several photos of her. Roberts was last seen at the Flying J truck stop in the 200 block of Resaca, Georgia, January 18th, 2020. She went into the kitchen. Does that mean the kitchen of the Flying J or the kitchen at Denny's, where customers weren't allowed, and got into an argument with an employee? And what were they arguing about? And is that employee have anything to do with the fact that she's missing or Caleb Smith being dead? The staff called the police and Roberts fled the scene before they arrived. She dropped her backpack, which contained cash and her phone charger, her wallet, her driver's license, her debit card, and her car keys, and she's never been heard from again. 2 days later, one of Robert's relatives found her car in the parking lot of the truck stop with some of her belongings inside. Some of her clothes were found hidden in a bush by the dumpsters in the back of the restaurant, but her cell phone has never been recovered. And who hid her clothes back there? Did she hide her clothes back there, or did somebody else? A 21-year-old named Caleb Nathaniel Smith had disappeared from the same truck stop on January 16th, 2 days before she went missing, and he lived a 1-minute drive from her and a 4-minute walk from where she lived, which was about a half an hour from this truck stop. And then his body was found on February 2nd in a marsh in Gordon County, Georgia. Authorities could find no evidence that Smith and Roberts knew each other or that their cases were related. But, did they search her vehicle for his fingerprints? Did they search his vehicle for her fingerprints? Did they check them for DNA? Did they ask the neighbors that lived in between them if they had seen them walking back and forth, or even the mailman? You know, did they ask anybody else if it was possible that they knew each other? Did they go through the video footage of the Flying J for like the month prior to see who was driving their vehicles, if they knew each other, if they spent time together, if they talked or anything like that? Did they ask employees at the Denny's restaurant or the Flying J and show them pictures and ask them if they knew each other? Prior to her disappearance, Roberts had gotten mixed up with a bad crowd and had gotten involved with drugs. However, her father said she was getting her life back on track and regularly reported to her probation officer. After she went missing, a warrant was issued for her arrest for a probation violation. She is considered missing under suspicious circumstances, and her case remains unsolved. And I know people who were living in Chatsworth at the time, which is where she was living, both her and Caleb Nathaniel Smith, and who's hung out with people in Dalton and may have known some of the people they were running around with, and they may have known them, but I cannot get a hold of them. And they're about the same age as them, but I cannot get a hold of them right now to ask them any questions to see if they know anything. Let's see. So then there's this Facebook. It's called the Silent Holler, and somebody sent me this link. And so they posted this 4 days ago, and you can go on there, you can click this link, and you can listen, and they have a very interesting podcast. So you should go on there and listen to their podcast. And I'll put a link below to the Charlie Project and to their Facebook, maybe. And I don't know. I'll try to get some links to the podcast. I don't know how short or long it will be, or at least to the Facebook to get you to that link. And here's the NamUs case for her. It says she was 20 years old, 5'2", 117 pounds. And her vehicle was found abandoned at the Flying J truck stop in Resaca, Georgia, January 2020. That's been, about 4 years. All her belongings were found left behind. Strawberry blonde hair, green eyes, and then the tattoo it mentions. And here's a couple pictures of her, which you've already seen pictures of her. She looks familiar, and I'm wondering if she wasn't one of their friends. Okay, and then here's pictures of him. And here's where they live. You can see it's a 1-minute drive. And if you walk, it says it's a 4-minute walk. And like I said, I know people that used to live. They at that time they lived around in the area. I don't know if they lived right in that area, but they lived in they lived in a mobile home, and they had neighbors that were within walking distance of mobile homes, and they made friends with them right away, and they were hanging out with them. And a lot of times, people that lived, I know almost everybody on our street. I know a lot of people, and I know all of our neighbors. And most of us, and it's the South. You move into a house, you get to know your neighbors pretty much right away. You say hi to the mailman, the delivery man, UPS man, things like that, and you get to know your neighbors. Will usually stop by and say hi to you, like right away, drive by, wave. But a lot of times you'll get to know them right away. And if you're young and even more friendly, I don't see how she didn't know him. And then if you look from where they lived to where the Flying J was, that's over a 30-minute drive. And both of them were hanging out there and driving there. Why would they be driving there? Why would they both be there if they didn't know each other and didn't run in the same crowds? And then on Reddit, it says the Flying J refuses to help either family. It says they won't allow them to put out flyers. They won't speak to you about either Caleb or Keeslyn. And if you go in and even bring up their names, they threaten to call the cops on you. Which makes me wonder, is that because of employees or a manager? Why are they doing that? So, and you can go onto Reddit and read more information that people have posted. And let's see what this says. This says, this is another place online you can find out. It mentions it. And so they said they used drones to try to find him, but it didn't come up with anything. And then they found him. And it talks about that. And then we have this right here that's a petition forcing Denny's to furnish camera footage. And I don't understand, why wouldn't the police automatically get the camera footage right away? Why wouldn't they file a warrant and get that camera footage and get over the last month, get a month's worth of camera footage right away to go over it? This doesn't make any sense to me at all. And it makes me feel like I just have so many questions. I have so many questions. So it says Caleb Nathaniel Smith, 21, missing January 16th of Chatsworth, was last seen alive around 2 a.m. on January 16th. According to reports, family members discovered his car and his belongings abandoned at a truck stop. And she was last seen 2 days after the same place where he was last seen at the same Flying J. Now, I'm questioning, is it possible that they both arrived in the same car? Because even though it mentions that they had two separate cars, because they mentioned that maybe somebody else might have had driven her car, because it seemed like a taller person might have driven her car. When I was listening to the podcast, I think that's what I've heard. Don't quote me on that. But then I questioned, did she go back into that employee section wherever she was, looking for someone who was not there, or trying to find out where Caleb was? And maybe that's why she was arguing with them, because maybe she was trying to find Caleb if they ran in the same circles and they knew each other and that was the last place he was seen, and if his car was in the parking lot. And then somewhere I think they said that maybe both cars had been backed in and that she didn't normally back into spaces. I don't like backing into spaces at all. Not at all. Reports said fire officials respond earlier to a brush fire in the same area where his body was discovered. And I question, was his clothing in that? Did anybody check to see if there was any clothing in that fire? Because they said he wasn't wearing any clothes, he didn't have any shoes, and they said the bottoms of his feet. Did they say they weren't dirty or muddy? You should listen to the podcast and find out. And then they mentioned shoe prints being found around the area. Okay. And I just, it, I have, like I said, I have so many questions. And were the cars processed? Like I said, were they checked for fingerprints? Did they check for DNA? Did they see, if his fingerprints were in her car or her fingerprints were in his car, or did somebody else drive their vehicles? Had her dad spoke to her between January 16th and January 18th? Because if they don't have camera footage, did they actually verify that it was the 18th that she was there? It's troubling. It troubles me that he's last seen on the 16th, and here she is a day and a half possibly looking for him, but she's in the same place that he went missing, and then she's never seen again. And then they won't even help them. And what happened to his clothes? Did somebody remove his clothes? Did he remove them himself? Why was his feet really not dirty? Is that a misunderstanding? Did somebody remove his clothes for the evidence, or was it something to do with him being out walking, or but then why wouldn't his feet be dirty? And when they're really not dirty, I just don't understand. I feel like I have more questions. And I just don't see, if they live that close to each other, how would they not know each other? Because if I walk 3 or 4 minutes from my house, I guarantee you I know who lives anywhere that's a 3 or 4 minute walk from my house. And I knew them right away when we moved in, because it's the South, we get to know each other. And then them being at the same Flying J, how would they not? And the same age, and about the same age. And yes, there's a Denny's there. So I wonder if there was an employee there that they knew at the Denny's, or more than one, or at the Flying J, and if that had anything to do with her being missing. How did her boyfriend know her car was at the Flying J? I heard them mention that at the podcast, and I have questions about that too. Had she and her boyfriend had an argument or split up? I wonder, because I do not understand why she had clothes in her car and how many days worth of clothes she had. They said trash bags full of clothes being in her car, which sounds like either her and her boyfriend had split up, or like someone may have thrown all of her clothes and belongings into trash bags and put them in her car and then driven her car, because they said the seat was back further, like somebody else who was taller or bigger had driven it. So then I don't understand if she was still dating her boyfriend or why her belongings were in her car and not at her boyfriend's if she lived there. Had her car been used or involved in any way with the man whose body was found? Did they go through the cameras for several days, up to the entire month at the Flying J and the Denny's, to see who these young people had contact with, or if they had contact with each other, or if they had driven each other's car or been in each other's car, or if they had come in with friends over the last month or together? I just, I'm wondering if they checked any of this. Did the police view the camera? Did they get a warrant to try to see this? And then it mentioned was th- I thought it mentioned that and I don't want to say this if it's not true, but I don't know. It said something about she may have been arrested that had to do with drugs or dealing or something like that. And so then I questioned, was her boyfriend involved or arrested? I don't know who her boyfriend was or what his name was, or even how long they'd been dating. And I don't understand, why is the Flying J refusing to cooperate? Is it anything to do with the owner? Are they afraid it's bad for business? Or does it have something to do with an employee or somebody that works there? Or manager. I just don't understand, because it seems like they would cooperate, like they would do everything they could help, because they would think, oh, if this is my child, I would want this case solved. I'd want to know what happened to them. And of course, you would think that they would do anything that they could to help get the case solved. And, I just don't understand any of this. But here's this link, and you can find. There's the Facebook page. It's called The Silent Holler, HOLLER. And you should go check that out. And if you have any information, please contact authorities and let them know. You could email a detective, the police department, and the sheriff's department, and CC several people to make sure that several people have the information, to make sure that they take it down. Take your time writing it out. Maybe you could write letters. You could possibly give them a call, but then you have to see, are they writing it down? You might could go in and file some kind of paperwork, but you just make sure that if you have any information, that they get the information that you have. If you feel like it's hearsay, please give them the information, whether it's hearsay or not, because it's not like you're testifying in court. You're just letting them know what information you have to try to help solve these cases. Feel free to leave comments. Don't forget to pray for their families and their loved ones. And have a blessed day. Bye bye.